Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to the first episode of the Serial Critic podcast. My name is Iman, your host, and the guilty serial critic. I'm very excited to share with you this adventure, and I really hope that you will enjoy listening to the episodes as much as I will enjoy making them for you. When I was trying to figure out how to start with this podcast, I thought it would be a good idea to start with a TV series that launched recently, meaning it would still be on the platforms in case you guys are interested, you would just go ahead and watch it. I chose this TV series as well because it's, in my opinion, one of the best shows that I watched in the past 2 years, hands down. And season 3 has just launched a few weeks ago. I'm sure a lot of you listening might have guessed which show I'm going to be talking about. Today, I will talk about The Bear. So, I discovered The Bear a few months after the release of season 1. I didn't really know what it was about because I usually don't read a lot of stuff about the series I'm about to watch just to sort of keep the anticipation going. But I knew of some of the cast, especially Jeremy Allen White. I'm not sure if you guys are aware or maybe watched a TV series that was launched a few years ago called Shameless. There was the British and the American version. I personally only watched the American version, which was amazing with William H. Macy. And Jeremy Allen White was playing one of my favorite characters. His name was Lip, this genius almost, born in the wrong family, struggling with his addiction, dysfunctional family, his love life, and the fact that he really wants to make his life better, but doesn't really know how to do that. Which reminds me, I definitely need to rewatch Shameless. There's so much to say about it. But again, back to The Bear. So since Jeremy Allen White was so good in Shameless, it sort of pushed me to watch him in The Bear. So The Bear tells the story of Carmen, or Carmi, this talented chef trained in the biggest restaurants in Chicago, New York, or Copenhagen. He's even trained in the French Laundry, which is supposed to be this high-caliber French restaurant in New York. So Carmi has to come back home to Chicago to take over the family restaurant left to him by his deceased brother Michael. And for him, coming back means facing his demons. First of all, losing his brother in the worst possible way, but also his dysfunctional family. It feels like Jeremy Allen White is always destined to be born in messed up families after all. But at the same time, he also gets to meet the staff of this restaurant, each with their background and struggles. And because he doesn't really want to deal with any of his issues, he basically decides to get to work and to transform this small family restaurant with only an Italian beef sandwich as the main item in the menu and run it as if he would run a Michelin-star restaurant. Well, when you hear the story like that, it almost sounds like a fairy tale culinary series where the fairy turns the ugly duckling into Prince Charming. Well, hold that thought. It will get very messy very quickly. The show is already 3 seasons. As of June 27 in the region, I think in some countries like France, it's gonna be launched around somewhere in July, and it's on Disney+. Well, on paper, The Bear should be an easy, quick watch. 30 to 45 minutes per episode, 8 to 10 episodes per season, so technically easily bingeable. But when I tried to watch season 1, it got very intense very quickly for so many reasons that we will detail later. But for now, I want to talk about the cast because for me, the cast is one of the key strengths of the series. In addition to Jeremy Allen White, which we talked about before, the cast does an amazing job portraying all the different characters. My 3 personal favorites are Ayo Edebiri playing Sydney, the ambitious sous chef, who is honestly, for me, is the revelation in this series. I haven't seen her in anything else before, but in The Bear, she was Sydney. You have Ebon Moss-Bachrach playing the intense cousin Richie, and you have Lionel Boyce, who plays Marcus, the ambitious pastry chef, who brings some sort of a peace wave to this whole mess. Apart from my favorites, every character is played perfectly, from the rest of the restaurant staff to the family, to those around them in the culinary world, chefs, restaurant owners, etc. It seems like every role was written for these actors. Something else that makes the cast of The Bear unique is cameos. I've never seen that many cameos appearing in one series on TV before, and not your normal cameos. Like sometimes I even wonder about the thought process behind choosing some names to play some cameo roles. I have to say though that in season 1 and 2, it was fun and cool to see like some big names playing some roles in the episodes, but it became a bit distracting in season 3. Another strength that I think also makes the success of The Bear is character development. While in season 1, we see that we focus more on Carmi, his struggles with loss, grief, and also trying to implement a working system at the restaurant, season 2 comes with a richer development of all the other characters around him. We even have episodes focused solely on specific characters to give us their backstory and background. And this show does flashbacks really well. Through flashbacks, we know a lot about Michael, the deceased brother. We know a lot about the family story and issues. We know a lot about each character's background, which gets us even more attached to them. Flashbacks are really well placed as well throughout the series and really well paced too. Having characters with completely different perspectives and backgrounds also leads to many clashes throughout the episodes, and this is what makes some episodes very intense, especially with Richie, who basically represents the main opposition to what Carmi wants to do with the restaurant. Because, well, everything was working just fine before, right? But even a character as raw as Richie will develop through very smart and rich writing, especially in season 2. In addition to brilliant writing, character development also goes through directing and pace, which leads me to one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to The Bear, Ask My Friends. Its ability to make you live the restaurant kitchen life. And that's what makes it very intense to watch. I said that before. While you think that it should be an easy binge, you will definitely need to take a break after some episodes where it becomes so intense and the tension is so high that you almost need a second to breathe. First, to keep the energy going, there's always something moving in almost every frame. Subway moving, people walking, burners lighting, shouting, cursing. There has to be noise or movement most of the time. And when there is no moving things in the frame, it's the camera that's moving, and there's always that energy going. And when they're in the kitchen, the whole atmosphere is electric. For example, you're gonna hear them shout corner or behind for almost anything. Corner, oh, health inspector is here. Behind, oh, the toilet has exploded. My friend even told me that she started to use behind now in real life whenever she's in the kitchen with her fiance. One of my favorite kitchen episodes in season 1, I think it was episode 7, and this episode was shot in one take. Basically, in this episode, they were trying the new pre-ordering system, and of course, like everything else, it ends up being a huge mess. And the fact that the whole thing was shot in one take makes you live in that chaos. And this is what makes The Bear unique. Again, there's so much creativity in directing in many episodes, which is very refreshing, honestly, in today's just okay television. There are also some amazingly beautiful shots throughout all 3 seasons of just colorful dishes, streets in Copenhagen. The director even manages to make a spilled sauce on the floor look beautiful. And while we're talking about beautiful things, The Bear's cinematography is one of these beautiful things. So as we know, the series is set in Chicago, so you see lots of Chicago streets, almost real-life people. And because there is a lot of blue at the restaurant, like in the logo or the aprons, blue sort of ends up being the common color of the whole show. So everything feels as cold as blue or as raw as blue, if you know what I mean. Another interesting thing is the fact that when shooting in the streets of Chicago, there is a big emphasis on restaurants. One would say, well, duh, it's a series about a restaurant. But it feels as if the showrunner is paying homage to the restaurant scene in the city, in the way they're shot. He actually said it, by the way, in one of the interviews, that spending so much time in the kitchens of various restaurants in the city actually helped him replicate the atmosphere in those kitchens. finally, I wanted to talk about an element that is, for me, extremely important when it comes to watching TV series or films. It either makes my experience better or ruins it for me. And this element is a soundtrack. And honestly, the Bears soundtrack is so eclectic and ranges from legends like REM, Radiohead, or Pearl Jam to even Taylor Swift. Even though I'm not a Swiftie, the way her music was used in one of the episodes was pretty good. And while the placement is perfect and brings so much value in some other scenes are just enough on their own without soundtrack. And the showrunners get that. Music is not just there to be there. I think by now you sort of guess where I stand when it comes to The Bear. Do I like it? I loved it. Do I recommend watching it? 100%. Just so you know, this was a spoiler-free review, so I didn't really want to go into details when it comes to the plot, but trust me, definitely worth watching. The Bear is about food, family, the insanity of the hustle, and the beauty of chaos. Watch it, and I'm sure you won't regret it. Let me know what you think on Instagram, and see you in the next episode with a new review on The Serial Critic.